What up, my freaks? RuinusInsight here with part 57 of my Total War Warhammer 3 modded Thorgrim Grudgebearer Old World campaign. So as we saw last time, Thorgrim's Dowie Empire, the Karaz Ankor rather, has nearly reached the edges, or pretty other than Norska, has completely reached the edges of the domain that we're likely to hold. We've made landfall at Albion and defeated Be'lakor with Higginbore Ironpick, and we have also reached 4 million gold per turn. It took 106 turns exactly to reach 1 million gold per turn, and then 20 turns to reach 4 million afterwards, which is pretty neat. And 1.4 million of that is through trade with the various factions that we so kindly let live and restored. Bretonia, the Empire, look at all those restored lands, isn't it beautiful? Anyway, in terms of what we got to do this turn, before we end the turn, there were, I believe, unless I'm mistaken, 2 potential big fights here with Story Azrael against Siegfried Schmidt and the defenders out of Bilbali, and then down all the way on the other side of the world out here near High Queen Khalida. Stachel Gundrickson, it remains to be seen whether you can survive this, and I am pretty invested in you, but you are a Slayer-led army, and thus if you find your doom, well, then you'll find your doom. Let's make sure we give these guys some items. Talisman of Preservation for you, and basic armor. What kind of armor do we have for you? Something that gives you, I mean, I guess we could just give them Armors of Destiny. It's not like we don't have enough. Yeah, fine. Go for an Armor of Destiny. And we'll do the same thing with you. I kind of forgot to give these guys their armors and stuff, but all good. Destiny and Talisman of Preservation, if I can find it in here. And we'll do the same thing. Okay, you've got your stuff. We'll do the same thing for the Thane. You're not a Thane, Runesmith. You need a Talisman of Preservation, and you have to have an armor as well. You guys are usually getting the magnificent armors of Boric Beetlebrow, so just to maintain the standard. There we go. As you can see, it's all on Runesmiths and Rune Lords. Some minor exceptions, but generally speaking. Yeah, there we go. All right, let's level them up, and then let's jump on into it to see whether this army survives. It has no easy way of mincing infantry, which is definitely going to be a big issue for them. Relentless. And you guys only have the 1 level? Oh, probably could have not even bothered with this, but anyway. Let us get you Woundmaker. Ancestral Grudge for 1.8% ain't too bad, so 8 too bad. Anyway, let us declare war on High Queen Khalida, who is allied with, I believe, only Mahrak, so it matters not to us. And let's see whether you can survive this. Gonna be a heck of a fight, if nothing else. Got your allies to help? No. They have wiped out the Cult of Sigmar. We'll see if we can't get some vengeance for those Umgi. Whether it's possible remains to be seen. It's definitely going to be a very iffy fight. A valiant defeat, casualties high, no flame units to take advantage of the fire weakness of the undead here. Well, good luck, Mr. Stachel Gundrickson. Wait, quick save. This is not the time to crash, Ruinous. Come on now. Now go. Alright, unfortunately I have some bad news about this battle. It doesn't seem to work. I tried it 5 times and every single time it crashes to desktop about 3/4 of the way through. Once the first 2 armies are dead, and I think it's one of these 2 armies, and that starts showing up as a reinforcements, it always crashes, which is weird because they don't seem to have any kind of special unit. They have Sepulchral Stalkers rather than the SFO unique Necro Serpents, which can be by themselves, I think. Unless that's a summoned ability from Khalida, because I'm pretty sure I saw those guys on the map, and not Sepulchral Stalkers as well. But anyway, yeah, I tried it a bunch of times. I restarted my PC. I turned all of the graphics and down to basically nothing, so it's not that. I don't imagine it's a CPU issue because we didn't get the Skaven battles crashing or anything like that. And it's sad because it's a really good fight, and while we do win pretty handily, because we destroy most of the enemy big boys at range, it is unfortunate not to see it. So the only thing I guess we can try to do here is Oh, I just realized something. Hopefully that... I mean, it's been a while since we fought Tomb Kings. The destruction-ish of the Exiles of Nehek proceeded in the relatively early portions of the campaign. I'm hoping that the Tomb Kings didn't have an instability introduced to them by the hotfix and patch, which killed the previous hotfix. We saw the instabilities with Nurgle, because it seems every battle with Nurgle now has a desync. But this is just a straight-up crash. I wonder if there was a unit added that no longer exists, or an ability or something. Anyway, I think the only thing that we could try to do is retreat to you and try to get the battle going in a slightly different location. You could try going after... I mean, you were going after Khalida. If you go after this guy, it would change the order, essentially, of the armies moving onto the map. I don't know if that makes any kind of difference, but I'm willing to try at least one more time. Even though I've already wasted an hour attempting this. Though it would be better to kill off Khalida. I mean, there's a reason we attacked Khalida first and not second, but it is what it is. We'll give it a shot again in this type, and if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, we'll just have to... Actually, I'm not sure, because you can't get away. They'll attack you next turn. I guess we're just gonna have to wait and see. Alright, good luck, Stachel. Not that you need it, as we already know that you can win. Oh, the guy, I guess that kind of spoils the fight, but nonetheless...
I'm here to die, but aren't we all? So let's take them with us when we go.
Alrighty, here we go. If you're hearing this, it looks like the 6th or so attempt actually worked without crashing. So we'll get to see how Mr. Stachel Gundrickson handles himself some Tomb King constructs. And admittedly, the Dragon Slayer army built for tackling large units should be pretty darn solid against the Tomb Kings, since their infantry is pretty terrible, and their best aspects are their constructs and their fast movers, and we have a lot of ways to deal with them. Now, the battlefield is essentially a wide open field. We've got a lot of enemy, well, 3 more armies, 4 full stacks coming in, so I think the best idea here would be to try to knock out as much of this first army as possible. We do have to be careful with employing our Dragon Slayers and our, well, Giant Slayers, as they could get shot up by the Sepulchral Stalkers, but fortunately the Sepulchral Stalkers are a perfect sort of target for those organ guns, which will penetrate their models and heavily damage them, and especially with fire support from those torps, we should be able to obliterate them fairly quickly. 3 out of the 5 of this army, and just this army, not 4 out of 5 of this army, have been destroyed. These snakes and be fallen. And though we do have enemy fast movers trying to move in on our flanks, our Giant Slayer and Demon Slayers, where our Demon Slayer and Dragon Slayers, where our Giant Slayers were not able to move forward, as they have to protect our flanks, are taking care of the rest of the enemy units. The enemy reinforcements have started to arrive on the battlefield, and the previous attempts of me fighting this battle saw Khalida. There's a reason, again, that I attacked Khalida first the first time. It was to knock Khalida out before she could actually do anything on the battlefield. Obviously and unfortunately we can't do that here because she was not the first army on the map, and we're just going to have to deal with her, which, well, maybe a little bit of an issue. And is this the same map? I can't quite tell. I think it might... No, it's not. It's not the same map. It looks very similar, but I think it isn't. In the other map, there was a big old cliffside on one side of the map, like this, and we were able to deploy the entire army to the back of the cliff and one entire side, so it was protected like this, so our artillery were really safe. Here, being in the middle of a wide open field, a bit of a bigger issue. Anyway, while the rest of the armies move on in and we bombard them as best we can, we're going to cut through the Tomb Guard to leave as few enemies around here as possible, as we're going to have to, you know, reform. The rest of our army will need to sort of contract and move closer to each other to protect our fragile artillery from all the incoming enemies. Though I gotta say, with all the buffs that we have, enemy Tomb Guard have, let's see, 52 melee attack, damn, 77 melee defense, pretty solid. But we got pretty solid melee defenses ourselves. Our artillery have 43, which is pretty okay. Compared to the 50 whatever it was attack on the enemy Tomb Guard, even if they do reach our artillery, it'll take them a little bit of a while to cut through them. And, well, we cut through things a fair bit faster. 82-70 melee attack and defense on these Giant Slayers. Obviously, they're not as tanky as the Iron Slayers in our Armored Slayer army, but still pretty darn solid. Anyway, looks like the enemy wants to summon its Ushabti now that they have sufficiently taken enough damage and activated the 3rd level of the Realm of Souls. We're waiting for more of the enemy big boys to arrive, and thus are trying to bombard whatever units we can reach, but otherwise trying to destroy any enemy range units as well. Khalida is down to about 15% of her HP before she reaches us, though by targeting her, we were forced to essentially allow the Necrosphinx to close the distance. I love seeing those torpedoes smash into everything. We have also started to take a fair bit of damage on our Giant Slayers, as we can see. These ones, for example, are down to 15 or 20% of their HP. All right, come on, somebody. One more hit to Khalida will bring her down. Though I think we've at this point switched fire because there are Ushabti with Great Bow, Bone Giants, and other long distance, long range things that are firing at us. And there we go. One last hit to Khalida as the Giant Slayer simply runs through, or that's actually the Demon Slayer, but anyway. Alright, and the battle continues. Over on the right flank, we've got even more Necro Serpents having moved on in. The Sepulchral Stalkers, we are not trying to charge them so much as obliterate them with the volleys from our artillery and our, well, army ability in this particular situation. And our Torps. Bounce power remains in the enemy's favor simply because there's still plenty more reinforcements to make their way onto the battlefield and more artillery arriving. I like that newly arrived Casket of Souls. Definitely have to be careful there. Shotgun blasts coming in from those Sepulchral Stalkers. You do gotta love an open field battle though, don't you? Even all this way far back, we can see what's going on the entire battlefield, even without zooming in over there. And yeah, tactically the open field battles are generally not the most interesting in the sense that there is no terrain to make use of, but visually, you gotta admit they have a tendency to be superior just because you can see the armies engaged. Alrighty, at last we've spent long enough in melee combat with our lord to summon those ancestral shield bearers, and they should be able to hold back at least a couple of units of Tomb Guard for a decent while. We still got plenty more reinforcements coming in. We see the Screaming Skull catapults firing in from both reinforcing armies, together with that Casket of Souls, all of which will be very dangerous to our unarmored and relatively fragile Giant Slayers. Gonna have to try to back them off, as at this point, the enemy artillery can fire at our Giant Slayers, and our own artillery, even with their massive range, can't fire back. The enemy units of, well, not the Screaming Skull catapults, but the Caskets of Souls have a massive, pretty insane range themselves, so we just had to back off. Shem's Burning Gaze coming in from that, from that Hyro Titan. Hitting the Troll Hammers reasonably hard. That's with their 50% spell resistance and huge armor. But fortunately, they don't lose models because we're gonna need them. Our Bolt Throwers are trying to knock that Hyro Titan down. Gonna help him out with a few torpedoes and going its way. And at last, the big boy will topple. No more Shem's Burning Gaze and no more Spirit Leech either. All right. Most of the constructs at this point have been focused down. Still a bunch of chariots trying to get around our flanks, and we just don't have the numbers of unhurt demon or Giant Slayers anymore. These guys are down to the dregs of their HP. Maybe 20% on you, 10% or 5% on you, and just trying to use them to protect our torpedoes to keep them firing, and obviously the same thing with our artillery. That unit of... Alright, that unit of chariots is destroyed, but they did manage to distract us a little bit to get a few more units of arrows firing away at us, or skeleton archers, together with more shotgun blasts from the enemy Sepulchral Stalkers. And though fortunately, the Sepulchral Stalkers, under fire from organ guns and under fire from the torpedoes, go down pretty darn quickly. Alright, and with that, the bounce power suddenly shifts in our favor. Our cannons have targeted the Casket of Souls and are trying to work down those frickin' Screaming Skull catapults, which admittedly did a fair bit of damage to us over the course of the battle. We can see that all of our Giant Slayers are nearly dead. At least HP-wise. Their units are all at about half of their units, so that's not as bad. They should recover to about half of their HP post-battle. And there we go. Just like that, we do manage to pull it off, even though it was an open field battle. And a pretty darn glorious one at that, you gotta admit. I wonder what, how much effort it would have taken for the enemy to have actually brought down our Giant Slayers, or our Demon Slayer and our Dragon Slayers, rather. They're statted up pretty darn nicely. 1k weapon strength, 112, 123, 45 on the hero, and then 45, 108, 128, 1.2k on the Lord. And on top of that, if we provide them a little bit, or if we were to provide them with a little bit of rune action, like Rune of Oath and Steel, they'd be even harder to deal with. Anyway, just those irritating screaming skulls to deal with now. Artillery a little bit on the slower side of working through their crews, but able to actually knock down their models reasonably quickly. And that's alright. Looks like this army works pretty well. Charge on in. Pumping those dwarven legs with 74 move speed. It looks a little bit silly, but entertaining nonetheless. Still not quite as silly as a Sigvald running with 120 speed, but I don't think I'll ever forget that one. Ooh, nice last blow from the Giant Slayer to finish the battle, and there we go. A little bit off center. That blow would have crushed this guy's right side and right shoulder, but wouldn't have split his skull by the looks of it. Come on, man. Anyway, heroic victory, glorious fight. Huh, so that one worked. But why? The weird thing about that is it's the exact 4 same armies that we had in the one that was crushed. The only difference is the order that they came in onto the battlefield and the map. I'm not sure if it was a different map or if it was the same map from the other side, but there was a difference there. In fact, it was a much worse deployment for us, so we actually did a little bit worse this time than when it was crashing, because we took a little bit more damage due to the open field and the fact that to our, well, in last time when I fought it, there was a big old pile of cliffs to our backs and sides, which protected the army significantly. But, well, either way, you can also probably see why I was so adamant on actually getting this battle, you know, done, because it was a glorious fight. Wasted an hour, but I'd like to think it was worth it. Great damage out of our troll hammers. They were absolutely instrumental in this particular victory, and even more so, finally, the organ guns. You can see that they vastly outdid all of our other artillery pieces and were either on par or slightly worse than, actually one slightly better than the worst doing torpedo. So they were on par, or even in the case of this particular one, the 61,000 damage, better than most of the troll hammers. Why is that? Because this is the rare time when the organ guns get to play within their very, very narrow niche. And what they were doing is obliterating things like sepulchral stalkers, which are sort of monstrous infantry, monstrous cavalry, I don't know what you want to call them. And this is exactly what these things are good for. They killed those guys, they were obliterating chariots, they were obliterating the Ushabti with great bow. All of those kinds of units, not droves of infantry and not single entities, but the sort of in-betweens that are perfect for the organ guns. So call them an anti-Tomb King weapon. Finally, something they're better at than Hellblasters. Though admittedly, if there were Hellblasters here, they probably would have done just as well, but nonetheless. Lovely to have actually caught them in their niche within this particular campaign, as, let's face it, they were somewhat underperforming against their non-niche enemies. Anyway, we are going to heal up here. Most of these guys are destroyed and shouldn't revive, and diplomatic relations plus 25 vampire counts. Are any vampire counts even allowed? Oh, Manfred, not for much longer, though. Oh, but the charge bonus is quite nice for a Slayer army, wouldn't you say? Iron Warden's Wardstone. 20% ward save when fighting against warriors of chaos, demons of chaos, dwarfs, Norska, and beastmen. That's quite nice. Against those specific guys, but I don't think we've gotten one of those before. It's the first time. Anyway, I am... wait, is there anything here? Yes. Alrighty, so let's do this. We'll go here. We will quick save. Maybe it was the garrison that was crashing it? No, but the garrison wasn't one of the reinforcements. It was those 4 I don't know what the heck. I don't know, man. All I know is that I got my battle and now I'm happy in it. I gotta be honest, I no longer know what the heck I was doing. Because essentially, since I wasted an hour trying to do that battle again and again, I don't remember where we were, what exactly we were doing with everybody, who was where, who still has to move and who doesn't. So I guess we're just going to start at the top and hope we find whoever it is that we need to find. Do all of you guys still need to move? No, just Gromby. Why didn't I move Gromby? Yeah, there must have been a reason, but I don't know what it was. Oh, Archie is here, but I guess there's nobody to save him for. Did you ever get his defeat trait there, Gromby? Just out of curiosity. Stormblight, Astragon, you have Kolek, you have Astragoth, you have Scarbrand. You do not have Archaon. Alright. Well, you can just auto-resolve him because this is pathetic. What are you doing, Archaon? You should have revived here at your capital instead. At least that way you wouldn't have just, you know, this wouldn't have happened to you. Auto-resolve, I didn't quick save, but I guess I quick saved before, so it doesn't really matter. Oh, so many crashes. Yeah. And yeah, we never had those types of and more melee attack when fighting Warriors of Chaos and Demons and Chaos and Norska, etc. faction-wide. But anyway, we didn't get any crashes to desktop before, so this feels like a instability that was introduced with that hotfix patch, which, you know, it is what it is, and not much we can do about it because of the, well, the patches were always going to come sooner or later. They adhere to the will of Slaanesh anyway. So who else needs to move? Man, I feel like there was a reason that I didn't move Gromby, and now I don't remember what it is, but whatever. All right, Karak, I technically have not been moving. I guess you could probably try to shadow these orcs. I don't really want you to bother fighting them because, frankly, unless a bunch of them sort of move together, they're not going to be any kind of threat, but you can shadow them. If they start taking territories from the Cult of Mor, we'll help them out. But this is kind of the sort of edge of our territory, because the campaign has to end sometime, folks. The instabilities and the crashes are already mounting, and there's only so much I'm willing to deal with. Anyway, story as... Oh, that was the other thing I wanted to do, yes. I had vague recollections of this. You were going to attack Siegfried Schmidt and draw out the very strong garrison of Bilbali. Lovely. So are you telling me that I moved everybody but Grimbrindle, and I didn't remember why? If anybody remembers what happened, like, I guess it was like 15 minutes ago for you guys, and in whatever reason that guy gave, please let me know. I'm just curious as to why I didn't move Gromby specifically now, and I no longer remember. Anyway, Granite Hand, you can stay here for one more turn until Stochel starts moving out. But yeah, I'm happy to give these guys these territories. I do wish that we could force them to move their capital, because they're still in the mountains, and I kind of don't like that, but we're not going to kill them over it. I mean, we're dwarfs, so we've already been a little bit, you know, maniacal on the kill everybody thing than we normally might be. I assume stay here is staying there. This thing hasn't been destroyed. No, it hasn't. Hopefully it will be eventually. And Elmador Deepbrow, you are supposed to join one of these armies, though. Damn me if I remember which one. You can join Reclaimer Grimson, I guess. Wait, no you're not. You're Azuli, right? No, you are Drengul with the Coordinated Carnage, meaning you have to join this army. Okay, alright. Starting to get the recollections. The gears are turning, folks. The gears are turning. Let's do the other big battle. Maybe that'll punt all the rest of the knowledge out of my mind. And I did the building, yes? You see what an hour can do to me? This is how frustrated I was getting with the thing. 5 times it frickin' crashed. Anyway, kill this. Kill this. Take my rage out on them for me. Don't you crash. All right. And this should be a pretty good fight, too. It says heroic victory, but I wouldn't underestimate the Dark Elven garrison, and this army might have issues against this, generally speaking. Ooh, gotta watch out for that bloated corpse as well. Quick save, and moving on, and Story Azrael. Alrighty, here we go. Another big old fight for us here. Stochel Gundrickson there had his, sort of beach battle as he arrived to attack High Queen Khalida and pay her back for the destruction of the Sigmarites there. And I guess if it's going to be a beach episode, it's only fair that we fight some zombies and vampirates. Alright, well, anyway, we're going to start the battle off with trying to do as much damage to the vampirate army before the elite Dark Elf garrison arrives, which means Vanguard deploying all of our Bugman's Rangers, trying to dish out as much damage as possible to the enemy artillery, and then follow up with any range units. We're not really concerned about the enemy infantry, as they don't have the depth guard to actually run at us quickly or threaten us. On top of that, now we have our Grudge Settler units in here. Their damage is pretty solid. It's not as much as the Bugmans in terms of pure DPS, but they do have that bonus versus infantry on them, which the Bugmans don't, and more importantly, they have Shield Breaker. So now 2 units essentially, like 1 unit of Bugmans and 1 unit of Grudge Settler Quarrelers can fire at the same unit if the enemy unit has a shield, and thus prevent them from blocking, which will very much come in handy against the Dark Elves because they have, well, for example, they have shields on those Cold One Dread Knights, which are going to be an issue. Anyway, the enemy artillery pieces have been destroyed. We're now switching targets to the enemy units of handguns and pistols. Gotta prevent these guys from firing back at us. And we've seen before, these guys can get a pretty withering volley down upon us. Although, unfortunately for them, we are pretty darn far back with 288 range when buffed by the presence of the Engineer and that Prospector Spyglass. The enemy Lord falls. The enemy army starts, I guess, moving towards us. They were waiting for those reinforcements to arrive, and in many situations, well, let's say in some situations, it is not a good idea to do so, especially when we can Vanguard deploy a quarter of our army in this manner, well, technically a fifth, I guess, a fifth of our army in this way, and then move another fifth in to close. Alright. And of course the big old range on these guys really helps out as well. And the ballistics calibration down back to a 270 range, but that's still a heck of a lot compared to an enemy unit of... Do we have any Dark Shards in this army? It should be weird to see a Dark Elven army without any Dark Shards. We've got 140 on Dark Shards, so yeah, we've got these guys buffed up by a fairly large margin. Perhaps they should have brought Dark Shards with shields, but even if they had, the combination now with the Bugmans and the Quarrelers, Grudge Settlers with the Shield Breaker would have allowed us to deal with that. Anyway, it looks like the Vampire Coast Army is destroyed long before the Dark Elves reach us. Minus this little unit of Scurvy Dogs, but they're such a non-threatening, weak unit that... we just melt them away, and it's kind of weird. I really love dog units. I mean, generally speaking, dog units are really good for pretty much all factions, but Scurvy Dogs in particular are probably the worst of them. They're incredibly fragile, and they start melting away at the drop of a hat. Even using them to chase enemies down is, you know, it's kind of iffy. Personally, I kind of prefer deck droppers for that particular purpose, because they can also harass an enemy army. And Scurvy Dogs are so fragile, even if you smash them into a, I don't know, like a light archer unit, they'll still take heavy damage, if not start melting away, so, eh. Which is kind of interesting, because they echo the dire wolves of the regular vampire counts, and I use those guys a lot, like a lot, especially in the early game. But anyway, enemies approaching, we are going to start having our artillery and some of our range units try to focus down that Death Hag. There is also a dragon and those 3 Cold One Dread Knights. Tier 5, silver shielded, heavily armored, just heavily statted up in general, and one of the rare instances of mace cavalry within the game. Household Knights like that armor piercing of theirs. And 106 armor piercing damage is pretty darn solid. And they've got that murderous mastery on them as well, though I fear that they're not going to get too much use out of it if they're unable to close the distance. Like so, first of the units of the Cold One Dread Knights have been torn to shreds, Frostbite and Shield Breaker, and making for a nasty combination as the enemy is both slowed and unable to block as much. And we're going to help them out by combining that Frostbite with that Flash Bomb. 14 move speed, and ooh, they were just about to charge in. They can still, I believe, get the charge acceleration bonus, so they can still speed up with that to some degree, but they do still lose 50% charge speed from the flash bomb, so Alright, and this will allow us to back off because it's time to move towards our lines of Grudge Rakers. Can't be, unfortunately, moving them away from the piles of artillery. We need those guys to do the work. Anyway, speaking of artillery, time to do a little bit of good old-fashioned sniping. Our Hellblaster volley guns firing over and over at the enemy dragon, now that it's closed the distance. I believe the volley guns have a little bit less range at 536 than the organ guns, 543. Okay, they're basically the same. And the Hellblasters have 3,000 missile strength compared to the 1.9k 2,000 of the organ guns, which I guess kind of explains why they can snipe big old targets so well. Anyway, the dragon is nearly out, just constantly getting staggered and unable to get its black dragon breath out. Lovely. Enemy will hit us with a chill wind, but not perpendicular to or parallel to our line deployment, and thus not going to do too much damage. The Dark Elves have, however, at last arrived, and it looks like they will be getting at least some of their melee troops into actual combat. Going to try to focus down those Hydras, though they activate, another takes its place, and will get their heals up and running. But it looks like the first one will break, and the second one is probably rapidly on the way out as well. I love seeing the combination of the Grudge Rakers, the shotguns, together with the Quarrelers. Rather than just one or the other is also nice to see. And there we go. It looks like the balance power shifts to about 95% in our favor. Just a couple more hits and the last of the enemy will melt away. The enemy Death Hag is gone, and we just saw the last enemy Sorceress drop. The Dark Shards realized, and they will find no purchase in the last unit on the field, unsurprisingly. And the Tier 5 Cold 1 Dread Knights will get torn apart, and with that, the battle will be ours. Very nice. Very nice indeed. I honestly thought that that would go worse for us, considering the amount of enemy units. Frankly, the Vampire Coast, by waiting for their reinforcements, probably screwed up. If they were going to wait, they should have deployed all the way at the edge of the map where the enemy was coming on in, so that they could attack us together, or just immediately attacked us. Not the thing they did, which is where they waited on their side of the map in deployment. Still, a great fight for Mr. Story Azrael. All right, well, there we go. That went pretty darn well. A lot better than I thought it would go. I guess Story Azrael spent, I don't know, like 15 episodes or a long time waiting for his promised Quarreler Grudge Settlers, and I guess they turned out to be a pretty big buff for his army after all. The reason that we wanted them in here is because they apply Shield Breaker, and they can, as we saw, move out with the Bugmans and then power the damage of the Bugmans up, and I guess themselves up, by applying that Shield Breaker to, well, enemies with shields, and generally adding the additional units that can fight and arc their shots away from the Grudge Rakers, which are essentially our melee troops and have to stay back to protect the artillery. Either way, worked out pretty darn well. With the artillery pieces on the right flank doing a lot, or on the left flank doing a lot better than on the right. For some reason, this organ gun refused to fire for basically the entire battle for some weird reason. I don't know. Weird things be happening. Not much we can do about it. All good. Retract replacements, and we may as well take the settlement while we're at it. Bilbali is garrisons basically cleared out, so auto resolve is better not. Okay, good. I was hoping it would not do a horrific amount of damage to us, but we're looking okay. And the reason why we don't want horrific damage is because, I thought this was a second full stack, but it's minor stack. They won't even try this then, which is, well, good for us, not so good for them. You can empower the guilds. We're obviously going to trade this away and then try to build up a defenses for them. For them, I mean our allies. There we go. Well done. Nearly done here, and working on that Dark Elven Grudge, and I hope, that was the only thing that we had to do this turn, because again, with all those crashes, I'm now confused as to where we were and what we were doing. I'm just going on the turn and hope that I'm correct in doing so. No siege equipment. What is this? What is this? Warvor Drakebeard. Oh, right. We were besieging Muros. Well, we could give them a chance to sally out, I guess. Let's give your NG here. What do you have, by the way? Okay, you have all your items, you have all your masteries, and you're saving points to buff up artillery. Okay, that makes sense. Alright, this should be potentially a fine fight. I guess we can fight it. You like a runesmith, which is obviously a problem. The ward breaker is really nice and stuff, but all good. I think we'll still besiege. Oh, you can build siege equipment, because if they don't sally out, this will help with the auto-resolve, because, you know, it'll be a fun field battle, but bombarding the enemy into submission is kind of boring at times. Anyway, West Hellspire Mountains, one of the newly traded territories. Gotta get all the mountain territories after all. And you can go into High King's Tribute, because we're keeping you. Lovely. Lovely, lovely. Go. Alright, they will sally out, but low casualties, eh? You know, I think we're past the point where we're likely to fight battles with low casualties. Again, it is an elite stack with solid stuff, but we've fought many of these in the recent times, and honestly, I figured it would be at least medium casualties, but I guess this army has already reached high veterancy ranks, so all good. All good. No need for something that wouldn't challenge us. Occupy. Huh. Wait, does Manfred have that thing that Vlad has that revives him in a single turn? I don't remember. He just died, did he not? Huh, I guess he has something. Unfortunately for him, this army is kind of meh. On the other hand, though, Groth Barok's army hasn't fought in a while, and if it hasn't fought in a while, maybe it's worthy of our time, even if it is a close victory. And on top of that, it is a army that, well, we actually properly designed, and, well, the organ guns aren't really meant for, well, they should actually be pretty good against the Black Knights. Should have a lot of difficulty with the ghosties and other such things, though, and I'm interested enough. Let's do this. You can go for Ranger's Standard to reposition yourself faster, and then you can go for the charge bonus and oversell. I mean, I guess that allows both of you to reposition faster. Quick save, Manny. I mean, we might as well bring Manfred down one more time. Why not? Alrighty, here we go, round 2 for Manfred von Karstein, though foolishly he has entered the underway, and perhaps in desperation to take revenge against us, but I don't think it's gonna go well. And ooh, this is a really cool underway map. Huh, and we've got these like, I don't know, like these obsidian growths or something, obsidian crystals up in the sky. That's pretty neat, or whatever kind of ore vein that's supposed to be, the lava coming down. This whole thing up here is really neat. Huh. I do wish it wasn't such a dark map, but it is atmospheric. I mean, the underway should probably be dark. I just, it's so tantalizing the way that the lighting works in this game, where you move towards the light source and it goes dark there, you know? So it's like, I would have liked to have seen our main stack in the light, but all good. All good. Anyway, here come the enemy. They have arrived on the battlefield. Their reinforcements are coming in here, which is why we deployed all the way at this side of the map. Otherwise, they would have hit us in the back or in the flanks. Unfortunately for them, this is probably not the best place to arrive on the battlefield, as the torpedoes and the engineers, which I guess are also torpedoes, just of the explosive rather than troll hammer variety, start hammering away at those piles of skeletons. Granted, I don't feel bad about this because the skeletons would have never reached us anyway. They're too weak. The enemy lord, which has landed, is trying to run away from that Thane, which is trying to chase him down, and good reason. Thane's got a lot of stats on him, 57-109, and the enemy's kind of in reverse, 117 melee attack, melee defense, so we kept ultra high melee defense and middling attack, and the enemy has ultra high attack and middling defense. And once again, I do like to see that the AI faction's stats are echoing ours, so it's not just our faction that's insanely buffed up. We can clearly see the enemy's got the same kind of deal. Although now with the debuffs, with the enemy melting away, it's not so great. And there we go. I don't think he's getting up from that one. Without a Punkarstein ring, he's probably not going to be revived. Anyway, looks like some of the enemy have made it through all the way on the right flank, rushing around the line of torpedo fire to crash into the line of the organ guns here. Gonna have to try to bail them out. We're gonna entrench them to buff them up with 15 melee defense and the physical resistance offered by the entrenchment. Hopefully that'll allow them to survive the attack of the dire wolves and the black knights. And it's also nice to occasionally see the artillery crews fight. They do have axes, they do have those, I don't know, sort of blacksmith's aprons and those big old helmets of theirs. Yeah, they're not big old helmets, but they do look thick and sturdy. Anyway, the reinforcements are dead long before Manfred von Karstein arrives on the battlefield, and that's just fine by us. While we did take a little bit of damage on that unit of organ guns, not one of the actual artillery pieces has been knocked out. Now it's time for the organ guns to do their work. They're not going to be the best at knocking out droves of Black Knights, as... I mean, if the enemy had something like Crypt Horrors or something, it'd probably go through a little bit faster, but they should still be pretty darn good at it, and I'd expect that the Black Knights will melt away before they reach us, as we have 6 organ guns, after all. And there we go, we can see them losing a fair few models fairly quickly. Certainly not as fast as something like a flame cannon, but, you know, what is? Alright, and also Mr. Manfred is moving rather slowly to keep pace with his army, and that's definitely going to be a problem for him, as the organ guns may not be quite as adept at sniping as Hellblasters due to their significantly higher damage. The organ guns are still pretty darn solid at it, especially against slow-moving and big targets. So, as soon as we've dealt enough damage to the Black Knights, which is just about now, now we can retarget and start shooting Manfred as well. And the enemy chill guys here, they may be hidden, but or they were hidden, but by virtue of the fact that they were traveling with the Black Knights, which were being targeted, plenty of them have been knocked out as well. Which works out pretty nicely for us. And we also got to remember that we don't have a Veneration of Smednir in this particular army, which means that we don't have magical damage on those organ guns. What we do have is numbers on our side. 2 or 3 organ guns switch to firing upon Manfred. The first volley takes about 30% of his HP, the second takes another 30%, and the third will most likely bring him down just as the rest of his army reaches the range of our torpedoes. There we go. Down falls Manfred. And again, he really should have stayed out of the underway. Like so. Alright, now that the enemy's in range of the torpedoes, let's see how long they can survive the torpedo rain to the face. Of course, with Manfred down, they have no hope of summoning additional units. The Banshees might be able to get to us because they're probably in stock, and maybe the unit of Cairn Wraiths as well. Though they are moving with those Black Knights, which are now melting away. And we've sighted the Banshees, which means they'll probably start taking hits as well. Oh my lord, a brutal volley of the engineers tears through those poor Sylvanian auxiliaries, or Sylvanian crossbows, mortal auxiliaries, let's say. And there we go, last of the enemy units are melting away. Now Vampire disappears under a hail of torpedoes, and just to make sure that it's gone for good, we add a few hundred more there for good measure. Time to banish those Banshees, and let's see if they manage to reach our line. One will melt away as she's already taken severe damage, and the other one will appear right before us, I take it. Oh, and oh, so close! Just rushing to charge, maybe get one good old shanking in on our lord, and then get sniped by that brimstone gun from that spotter engineer. That was a very nice shot, and I like how it was a single shot to knock her out. Perfect. Very nice, close victory, probably solely due to ammunition expenditure. All right, yeah, I thought the deployment would help him a lot more than it ended up doing, so sorry, Manny, that did not work out for you at all, bud. Huh. They'll actually attack Dwinbar Ranulfson. Well, they didn't sally out of Karak-Zorn, but they decided to sally out and attack us here. Well, good for them. Good for them. They got some decent stuff and a fair amount of artillery, which should be fairly dangerous to us here, especially the Casket of Souls, which we have no easy way of sniping. Still, Axstorm Army always has a good time, and I'm sure this will be no different. Go. Alrighty, I'm once again still not sure what oaths the Tomb Kings may have broken for us. I feel like the dwarfs are just assuming that everybody is an oath breaker. Alright, if they're not with us, they're oath breakers. It's just their assumption. Anyway, here we go. Should be a pretty fun fight. We've been fighting Tomb Kings and Undead pretty much all this entire episode, so might as well complete the set here. I'm gonna try to snipe that Casket of Souls, which will of course fire back, and this isn't the sort of sniping capable variant of the Grudge Throwers, but with the accuracy buffs that they have, a decent amount of the shots do hit the enemy, even if they don't deliver as much damage as a single blob of, or a single shot rather than the split shot variant. And there we go, with that the Caskets of Souls does get destroyed, though the enemy does take aim and start firing back at us, and with its two bone giants and its Ushabti with great bow. And these guys are pretty aesthetically fantastic, and I do love watching them fire back at us, and admittedly it's probably going to take a long, and I mean long, time to work our way through the amount of HP that they have with the Grudge Settler Grudge Throwers, and so, well, because of the amount of HP and resistances, we're going to ignore them for now and make sure that we destroy the Screaming Skull Catapult first, before following up on the Bone Giants, and possibly the Ushabti with Great Bow. We'll see. Frankly, it might have actually been the better choice to rush the enemy army with all of our units and destroy this one before the enemy reinforcements got onto the battlefield. It looks like the enemy is waiting. I fell into the trap of the choke point here. I figured, you know, it's a choke point, we could take advantage of it, and that is to some degree true, but the unfortunate aspect is we're not going to win an artillery shootout here, at least not at range. I mean, in close range, when the enemy does close the distance with our Goblin Hewers, then we should be able to destroy anything we please, but, well, then just generally this army delivers a ton of damage. But the Grudge Throwers, they're not really for this, and it's going to take a while for them to deal with this. And then there's even more enemies moving onto the field. I mean, look, that Screaming Skull Catapult has finally been destroyed, and it's taken a while. Alright, well, I'm working on that Bone Giant now. Sandvale and Unspottable. Looks like the AI has decided to hide it. Huh. It has Unspottable, but it doesn't have Snipe, so I take it that it reveals itself if it should fire again, shouldn't it? Perhaps it should. And if you're wondering why they've stopped firing, we have simply backed off slightly with our units. Our Great Weapon Rangers are hidden because they have stock. The Goblin Hewers are not, but by slightly backing off, the enemy got out of range, apparently. All right. And there we go. The enemy reinforcements are on the field, and that's a heck of a lot of them. Looks like the, well, we're gonna have to keep firing away at those Bone Giants, because they will deliver massive damage to us if we let them. And on the bright side, any shots that miss the Bone Giant will simply hit the units moving around behind it, slowing them down and dishing damage to the infantry. I do love to see the big old constructs and just big old entities stagger from shots as well. Ooh, like those chains on the pauldrons there as well. I really need some updates on the Tomb Kings. They have such fantastic aesthetics. Anyway, all that aside, it's time to actually make use of the choke point as the leaders of the enemy army, the Vanguard, will charge forth. The Sepulchral Stalkers start landing their shotgun blows. The Knights of SF try to charge together with an enemy Tomb King who melts away under hail of axes. And frankly, the Knights of SF are in no better shape as well. There we go. And just before managing to reach us, slowed down by the various, well, slowdowns we have. The bleed that we have doesn't probably do too much on this particular army, but what it does now, what we can rely on is the ludicrous amount of damage that we have on everybody here. 146 missile strength, and with the buffs, a huge amount of melee defense as well. Alright, love seeing those axes fly, but one of the quirks, sort of this particular army means that they will take damage if the enemy does manage to close. And, ooh, looks like we have had to move out we've been taking too much fire from the Bone Giant and other such units, including the Ushabti with Great Bow, because we can't really kill them with the Grudge Throwers, and we're going to have to try to move forward. It does mean taking damage, and the enemy is bombarding us with those Screaming Skull Catapults, which will, when they find their range, probably be able to rip apart at least a few of those Rangers with Great Bows. Fortunately for us, the enemy isn't super accurate. Unfortunately, even a single hit will... Yeah, there you go. There. Oh, yep. Well, one volley, and this Ranger unit is pretty much destroyed, and we're going to have to back it out. And just keep moving forward as best we can. And the enemy is still moving towards us. Ooh, I do love to see these sort of slow-moving Hyro Titan advancing with those Tomb Guard, the pyramids, and the sort of, I don't know, dunes in the background. Actually, those are mountains, not dunes, but anyway. It looks great is what I'm getting at. Again, in aesthetics, it's Tomb Kings and Lizardmen who always have the best, but again, Tomb Kings just really need an update to make them a little bit more fun, more importantly, a little bit more varied in terms of what they can do. Their limitations to their roster means that there's only a few sort of good army compositions with them. Especially since their chariots are effectively useless outside of early game, which is unfortunate. They're essentially one note in terms of their infantry. You're basically completely relying on building your army around constructs. And even though Sepulchral Stalkers are one of my favorite units in the entire game, they invested everything into charisma, basically, i.e. their aesthetics. And they got nothing else. Anyway, not that their units aren't great. So again, Sepulchral Stalkers and Bone Giants, that's really just all I need. I love spamming both of those units, but anyway. Speaking of, the good units, the Ushabti with Great Bow are pretty darn amazing as well, but these ones will be knocked out. Couple more blows, and there we go. The last of them melt away, and with that, the heroic victory is ours. We'll see you again, Tomb Kings, I'm sure, and when either through mods or either through game updates. You'll be needing... Oh, there are Lizardman temples in the background. I knew something was a little bit off here. Neat. I like this combination. Alrighty, there we go. That was a little bit tougher than usual, perhaps, for the Storm army. It's not particularly good at artillery shootouts because it's a super close range army, and while it does have the Grudge Settler Grudge Throwers, they're, again, not very good at actually knocking out either single entities or artillery, though obviously single entities melt as soon as they get close to us, but only if they do get close. As we saw, we had to move out some of those Rangers, and one of them lost, like, I don't know, like 3/4 of its HP and like 2 volleys from the Screaming Skull Catapults. Obviously, we're not the only ones with dangerous artillery pieces, especially in the late game, where the AI has all of its techs as well. Given to it for free, mind you, by the cheating nature of the AI, but nonetheless, fun fight for Dvenbar, and he'll heal mostly to full. All right, there we go. Oh, I just saw Confederation. Wait a moment. Tunneler, Supervisor, Moonslaker for Grothborough. Great for him. Tomb, something. Master Mason, Urson Revivalists. Great. Gotten Power. The Blessed Dread has been confederated by Harganeth. Ah, quite interesting. I'm actually surprised that they... Wait. Yeah, I'm surprised by, I'm looking in the wrong place, by the fact that they even had contact with each other, but I guess both of the factions, well, the Harganeth is fine until we get there, but the Blessed Dread were pretty much done. And Greedos Road is ours, which is what, that's here at Muros. Might as well upgrade it. We're probably not going to wait for it to fully upgrade since we're giving it to allies. But for now, ally mobilizes, ally will do that. Dragonbane Gem. Okay, these are all stolen from the enemy. Mind's muddled. How dare you? How dare you muddle Oldest Helhein's mind? He's already old. His name's Oldest. And I don't even, I don't even remember what that does. Wait, was it even him? Maybe it's they muddled somebody else's mind. It's just that they were up here, which is why I clicked up here. Anyway, ambush foiled. I don't even remember who you were trying to ambush. There was a little Dark Elven army up here. Huh, actually, if somebody else could take Dromir Valley, would you be able to chase them down, sir? Please? You can't reach Dromir. What about Thugni? Come on, Thugni. Yes, that's how you Thugni. And, okay, we got basically no garrison to be concerned about here. So let's do this. Close to feet with the one guy, and he doesn't even have items, which is funny. I mean, he is close to level 50. Whoa, hello, what is this? Scintillating shield. Purple armor. From what? Miscast base chance might plus 20% for all enemy spellcasters. Charge, reflection, and barrier. Ready for duty, ready for duty, ready for duty. The Savage Blow. Gyro cut. Why did we get that? What did we do to get that? What the heck? Oh, I know what that was. I actually don't know what that was, but I have an inkling. It does the first level of Doom Mountain. No, it doesn't. Wait. No. Wait. It's not Doom Mountain. It's not Galbaraz. It is Hall of the Dragons. Hall of Dragons. Where is that? It should be in Gorgazen. Ah, it's Hall of Dragons. Hall of Dragons grants a random ancillary every 5 turns. That must be it, right? Because we didn't complete a quest. That's a really interesting armor, though. We have a massive amount of miscast base chance on Thorek, and we could stack it even more for basically 100% miscast. A little bit too late to use it on Kairos, perhaps, but whatever. And probably too late to use it on Nurgle. Unfortunately, since every battle with Nurgle seems to be a desync, it's just kind of not worth doing. And they get fairly nice armies. Maybe if we force the desync by not giving any commands. Like I've said before, I have learned how to play somewhat around desyncs. At least it's only Nurgle so far. Not even the Tomb Kings, even with their something of an instability thing. Anyway, Reclaimer Grimson, let's move you. Wow, you can move all the way to Goretown, but I guess you should probably take the Mansion of Eyes because it's a higher priority thing. Oh, actually, you know what? One moment. You can go to Bloodhaven. Oh. Wartborg the Mephitic. I guess I could have gone to... Well, it's too late now, but anyway, you cannot resolve the... Oh, I should not have done that. Now you're heavily damaged, sir. This guy might attack you next turn. Not that it'll matter over much, but it's the principle of the thing. And... Well, yeah, some okay stuff. Too bad we can't reach him now. Anyway, you go here. Auto-resolve it as well. You're gonna take the same amount of damage to your poor Longbeards. But whatever. Well, they could try us, they could not try us. I wish them luck. Anyway, as I was starting to say, I'm gonna call the episode here. Huh. No, okay, seriously, why are we getting purple items now? We weren't getting purple items before. What is this? Is it because of the... Oh, I know what this is. It's because... Oh, I figured it out. This is actually a nice item. Unspottable, stalk and snipe for our sniping army. What this is the items patch, right? Because it killed the previous patch. And now it's giving us better items. It's unstable, but it is giving us better items, so it is using that particular patch, which is kind of interesting to see. And it hasn't crashed yet. Well, some of those might have been nice throughout the campaign, but it is what it is. Anyway, either way, I'm going to call it here, guys. I have no idea how long this episode has gone on for. The crashes have kind of put a stopper to me keeping track of this particular episode, so it is what it is. And I'm going to just assume that we're about time to stuff, especially since I got to do the building and other admin between the turns, or between the episodes. So anyway, next time we continue moving towards wiping out the Dark Elves and crossing out that grudge. Perhaps it'll be time to attack Durthu as well and take the Northern Grey Mountains. Drakenhof Conclave's on the way out. Court of Libaras will probably survive for at least a couple more episodes. And yeah, Harganeth and the Thousand Maws plus their locations. Would have been nice to get this unique Dwarf Lord at the start of the campaign rather than the end, but oh well. Next time, perhaps, and next time I play Dwarfs, which will probably be in Immortal Empires after all of this. Anyway, oh wow, look at everybody trying to go after Wulfric. Actually, if everybody starts going here without us having to go there ourselves, that might be kind of neat. Certainly something to think about. Anyway, just a couple more episodes to come, so stay tuned for the end of the campaign. Don't forget to leave those likes and comments below if you've enjoyed this heckin' long Dowie run. All glory to the algorithm, and thanks for watching.